kickstart the discussion, over to Mehar. In the advertising world, what has it been like during this COVID? What has it been like? Explain to us, especially in the Kenyan, also because you handle a couple of customers on the continent. Kindly take us through what it has been like for you.
It's been a very interesting journey ever since COVID-19 was announced on the 19th of March here in Kenya. We've seen a lot of customers, a lot of clients actually. It's been a shock to them, and one of the first things that they've done is that historically, and this is what we've seen along the years, is that they actually go ahead and the first thing that they put a hold on is on their marketing budget. And this is the analogy that I usually give to people. It's like if a well has stopped working, you know, it's not giving you as much water, you don't stop using water. That's insane, right? But unfortunately, that's the first thing that happens, is that a lot of the customers, a lot of the consumers here, the clients actually stop down on the marketing and the advertising budgets. And that's been one of our biggest challenges across the board for a lot of advertising agencies, for a lot of boutique agencies like ourselves here in Kenya. And that's what we've been at the moment facing with and struggling with right now.
So like the norm, when the going gets tough, the marketing budgets get cut fast, right?
Exactly.
So over to Alice. Did we cut some budgets?
So I mean, I'll look at it from two perspectives. So I look at it from the perspective of my industry, and then I look at it from the perspective of my career. So from the perspective of our industry, I work in the pharmaceutical industry. It's been a tough one for us because at the end of the day, we still hold the mandate of making sure that our patients get timely deliveries, get their medicine on time. So we've gone back to the basics to ensure that our customers, hospitals, wholesalers, supermarkets have the medicine when they require it. So that has been our first mandate. Our second mandate, of course, has been to do it safely, right? So even as we deliver this medicine, what do we do to ensure that our team members are safe and the people that they're dealing with are safe? And as a pharmaceutical company, how do we educate people on how to be safe during this period? So it's been a mixed bag of, initially, of course, everyone was quite, afraid. I'm sure everyone knows the Kenyan journey. So initially, everyone was quite afraid, stocking up on medicine, making sure they had everything in the house. But now we're going into a new zone where people are becoming less concerned about their safety and more about the economic journey. So we still have to stick firm and make sure that our first communication to customers is about safety, and two, we're delivering products to them. So easier said than done, right? As a salesperson, and I'm talking generally, so not just as a salesperson in the pharmaceutical industry, it's been tough for salespeople because salespeople are used to that energy where they meet customers, they're on the ground, they're having conversations with their customers, they see trends in the supermarket, they see trends at the wholesaler, but now they are working from home. Very different from what they used to every day. I always say everyone else from the offices might be a bit comfortable working from home, but most difficult for salespeople who are used to that, that pulse of meeting customers in the market. So for me, it has been challenging. One, I miss, of course, the fact that I can wake up and go to the market. I don't have that anymore. I miss meeting my team members. And I also feel their frustration in the fact that they can't integrate as well as they used to with their customers. But I think that's why the discussion here today, what can we do different?
Alice? Hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I just go ahead and move on to the next topic, perhaps? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Rehaan. Probably Rehaan, you can tell us. People are very important during this period, and this period has been very trying for managers, bosses, and employees in general. How are you managing their anxiety? How are you managing their expectations? How are you managing their fears? And how are you enabling them to have a life balance between work and family?
So the first thing that we did is that we engaged them in a way that we wanted to. So what we went ahead is that we differentiated ourselves first as a business, right? I'll give you like a little background firstly. There are about 157 digital agencies here in Kenya, in Nairobi alone, just to have a little idea over there. So we wanted to go ahead and differentiate ourselves from them, right? So we involve them in the entire process. So they have an idea and they have a sense of community and belonging in the company itself. So what that brought in is that despite the very fact that we are living in extremely uncertain times in which an employee has no idea whether or not tomorrow he will or she will have a job, that actually brought in a sense of belonging to them, that yes, this is a company, this is an agency that actually looks after its employees, and they're looking out for me. One of the other things that I've also started doing is that I have started calling them up on video chat, checking on them regularly. How are you doing? How's the family doing? And this is actually brought back to them a sense of, all right, you know, I'm not alone, and I'm not just a cog in the wheel churning out projects, you know, for the company by itself. This is someone who's looking out for me. And I thought this has been key for us as a company. End of the day, Alice, an employee is a hugely important part of any company's success. And that's where I have been coming from. And I feel that this is what every organization should do that for their employee.
Okay, so creating that human, in as much as you're not seeing them physically, it's just making sure that you're connected to them from a humane level.
Exactly.
Rogers, probably you can tell us what you've been doing to allay your team's fears, what you're doing to make sure that they're not anxious, and probably even touch on not necessarily in your industry, but how do you deal with people who are facing imminent slashes on their salaries? Everyone is anxious about that. How do you deal with that?
Okay, thank you very much, Alice. From my side, we have, of course, when it came, it was scary and anxiety kicked in, but we have, first of all, reoriented how we do business in terms of if we can't do consumer engagements like we have normally done them, how can we transform them to channels that are still alive, like digital channels, radio and TV, and still reorient our teams that used to be field teams to take part in that. Our organization has provided courses online for people to upskill themselves to be able to deliver through these new channels. So by and large, most of the team has remained active working. They've learned new skills of transforming what they used to do physically to be able to do them on other channels. Of course, the distribution forces on the ground have remained active, though you can't digitize the whole of distribution. There needs to be the physical delivery of the actual product or something like that. So that has remained active. Then, of course, the organization has come in to support those who are at a higher risk on the front line with PPE and regular checks here and there. And our HR has remained a face to the employees, as in always engaging us, talking to us, allaying fears and things like that. So I think, I also saw a couple of organizations in Uganda, like the beer industry, soft drinks and FMCGs. They also moved quickly and adopted digital ways. People would place orders online, then they have teams deliver. So I think this, to me, gave us an opportunity to rethink how we've always done things. For those that had their salaries cut or those that lost jobs, it's unfortunate. In my view, it shouldn't have come to this, but it is what it is. And I don't think all hope is lost. People can always reskill and upskill and, you know, come back. And trust me, whatever they've been doing, whatever they've learned, and all the principles they've used are not useless. They are not all lost. They can use them in whatever new avenues they use to deliver. It's just a downtime. They can always come back.
It's not a permanent situation. Okay, Sharon, I think is back. Sharon,
thank you,
I
Alice,
think we have you back at the moment.
Thank you for stepping in. Rogers has mentioned something about the breweries adjusting. People could place orders online and then their online distribution teams actually deliver, which brings me to consumer behavior and how we actually, to Paul, have we seen adjustments in how the companies across the ones you've dealt with, Cameroon, Uganda, Kenya, in how they communicate so that they are able to adjust to the new customer journey?
I hope you've unmuted Paul.
He's unmuted.
He was muted, just check. Okay.
Yes, Paul.
Okay, now I can talk. All right. So before I go into how companies are communicating, I'll just basically share an insight with how companies are operating. So I do know of a couple of companies, and one of them, interestingly, was a company in an industry that Rogers has highlighted, and it's a brewery. I won't mention which one, but there's a local brewery which has basically said, you know what, guys, things are becoming tough, and everyone from operations to HR to finance, all other departments which are not in sales and marketing have been thrown onto the front line of sales and marketing. So you have HR people now doing a little bit of sales and marketing. You've got finance people doing a little bit of sales and marketing, because then they say, you know what, we need to double our efforts with regards to how we are getting customers. And so now, while these other operations on hold, we still need to look for customers, even if we are operating in tough times. So the first way that things have changed, even before you look at communication, is in terms of operations. Companies are now changing how they do operate and how they do things with regards to reaching out to the consumer. So that's the insight that I wanted to share for people communicating. For the companies which were prepared, and these are companies which had data about the customers. They had your name, they had your email, they had your number, they had your physical address. Communication moved from mass communication into more of personal communication, one-on-one. So trying to see, hi, can we call Sharon? Do you still need our services? We're still operating, we're still running. You go ahead and call Rogers, the same thing. So for companies which had the data really organized, they had an easier time basically transferring into one-on-one communication with their customers, and that is basically the smart way of doing things. For those who are in industries where you can't reach your customers using the same form of communication, we've seen people doing smaller events. Obviously, there were digital events, smaller events, and key areas where you can get and still communicate to them. We've seen also brands basically riding on health communication, so they've totally not shut out their communication, but again, they've basically just passed on the message while also remaining alive and relevant to the consumers, just passing on communication about COVID, awareness, and even helping the government with the health messaging. The final insight I'd like to share is, and it has to do with what Rehaan had mentioned earlier, whereby budgets have been cut. I know a couple of top 10 spenders who've totally cut their print till 2021. I know a couple of top 10 spenders who've basically cut down on their TV, cut down on their radio. And so basically, even as they wait for this wave to ride, and even as you're going on to the recovery stage, it's sort of like holding on to the resources that they would have spent, because you spend and then not much is coming into the pocket that you spent. So you say, you know what, instead of spending, let me just hold on and see how I'm going to ride this wave. So basically, the communication has to be is going to be staggered. It's going to be smarter. It may mean less money for very many people who have been in media buying, but it will also lead to very efficient and effective ways of communication. So for those who are not measuring before, now they're measuring even harder, because for every shilling spent or for every dollar spent, then management team wants tenfold return. So it's going to be quite competitive going forward.
Thank you, Paul. And now this is to Mehar, the teams that really generate the campaigns and then use the various channels to ensure that the communications actually get to the end customer. And then subsequently, we need the customer to act through making a sale for Alice and Rogers. Do you think for the first time ever, we are going to see maybe in the next 5 years, digital is going to overtake, in terms of the digital spend is actually going to overtake the traditional advertising?
Yes, it will. Absolutely, Sharon. It's the digital spend has gone through the roof, by the way. And in one of the Nation articles about 2 months back, they had said that the just the spend, because through e-commerce spending here in Kenya alone, they are looking at about 2 billion shillings worth. So far as the digital spend is concerned, we're looking at quite an exciting era, quite an exciting arena also. And this is something that a lot of people are looking forward to. This is what a lot of print work has actually just simply gone down. And one of the things that that I keep on telling a lot of people out there in the industry is that we need to now see how we can actually pivot ourselves as an industry into digital, and not just what the usual stuff what everybody is doing, but what can we give out which is something which is newly. How can we think newly in different techniques, in different ways of getting the message out to our consumers, so they will actually like to click on our message and go ahead and make the journey through all the way through the end.
All right. Thank you so much, Mehar, for sharing that with us. Alice and Rogers, you're the sales team. You passionately believe in the touch points with the customer, that at some point, the physical interaction with the customer is very critical. In the past 3 months, we literally have no interaction with the customers. Do you think that is going to affect the way we see the normal customer journey? Or do you think even with the heart of marketing, which is the customer and the 7 Ps, we have to go back to the drawing board and draw this journey to be able to accommodate their new behaviors in terms of purchases, in terms of how they share feedback with you, in terms of how you deliver? Over to you, Alice, first, and then Rogers.
Okay, so the first thing I have to say is that today and what was there yesterday are very different. So today, the sales team and the marketing team have to be this close. They have to come this close, because what happens is that, unlike before where there was a clean break, probably marketing would say, we've done our part, we've advertised, now as a salesperson, go sell. Today we're looking at a platform where both have to meet, right? So they have to come together probably on an e-platform. The marketer has to market and the salesperson has to sell, and both have a common interest. So that division of sales and marketing is becoming very, it's no longer there. It doesn't exist anymore. But nonetheless, I want to say that this is a period where salespeople have to get really closer to the customer, right? So I'll talk here about the customer in terms of the trade, and then I'll talk about the customer in terms of the shopper. So the customer in terms of the trade doesn't have a lot of money, one. He doesn't also have a lot of time, because many people are calling, many people are selling to him on an e-platform. And he's also going through a personal journey in terms of, COVID-19. So as a salesperson, this is the right time to enhance your relationship. It's the right time to add value to the business of your customer. So don't give those calls and just talk about sales. Try and understand, where is the customer at this moment? What does his P&L look like? What can he do from a total business perspective, and not just the perspective of your business, okay? How is he dealing with Corona? Is he safe? Is he okay? Does he need advice? Can you give him advice on trends? Can you read up or get information from your HQ and take it down to him and give him this information? Because over and above maximizing profits, tomorrow you want to build a relationship with this customer. So that's one, building the relationship with the customer, very key, not focusing on profit maximization. The reality is, we will one day have to move from this Corona situation, and the customer will only remember the salespeople who added value to his business. So now let me go to the customer in terms of the shopper. So the shopper, you and I are shoppers. We have less money to spend, okay? We have less time, we're rushing home, we have a curfew. We've shrunk our day into few hours. We have a lot on our mind. Everyone is trying to push something into our face and telling us it's a necessary product. So the customer journey has to become, one, painless. Okay, so we have to make the customer journey painless. We have to make the customer journey short, right? So get to me at the touch points quickly. And then we have to add value to our customers. This is the right time to discount your products. This is the right time to do co-bundling, right? This is the right time to give your customer information not related to your product. So information on safety, information on health. This is the right time to communicate, just not about your product, but also things that you think are important to the customer. And then finally, we have to make the customer journey safe. Okay, so in as much as everyone is talking e-commerce, remember, principally, a lot of our population is not necessarily aware of e-commerce, or is not necessarily in tune, might not even know there's a Jumia, might not have the Android phone that can get them into Jumia. Let's remember that this customer still needs to be served. And we have to make the journey for that customer safe, and we have to bring the product even closer to them. If we could actually go and sell at the doorstep, that would make life easier. So it's a balance of the two. You want to balance e-commerce because e-commerce is growing and it's the new wave, but you also want to make sure that your basic customer is able to receive your products.
Thank you, Alice. Roger, in the telecom sector, what does it look like in Uganda right now?
Okay, right now in the telecom sector, things are just getting better. There's this notion, I have many friends that have taunted me with it that in the telecom industry, that the telecom industry has been the beneficiary in this. They all stayed home. They used their phones, so data was being sold and all that and all that. The first Apple, of course, we went into the lockdown about 20-something of March. Apple was a low season in the telecom industry. Much as there were growths in data, but remember telecoms had to put mobile money tariffs down to grow usage of mobile money and make sure people are not interacting with physical cash and things like that. So they lost quite a bit of revenue there. Then some of the biggest customers who earn by the day and buy telco services, market vendors and people in the informal sector, those actually add up. Every day they buy because they need to communicate, there's business. So when they were staying home, they had no need to buy, and that slowed down the telco business. Apple was not good, but after the lockdowns were opened, we're slowly seeing recovery and it's looking good.
Okay, thank you, Roger. So we have winners and losers. Telecoms are some of the winners in this. Let's accept the revenues have tripled because we are basically home. We are working from home. Alice, you're also a winner. I think the pharmaceutical industries, people are buying medicine. Okay, no, I think you're a loser. People are not falling sick. The children are not at school. They're not picking up any infections. We are all keeping safe. We are washing our hands. Just to everyone who has joined us right now, you're most welcome. We will take the questions in the group chat. So kindly post your question there. And as we come to the end of the session, we will throw out these questions to the panelists. Moving forward. And this is to Paul. Paul, there is a lot of clutter. Personally, at some point, and probably Victor is also a victim of this, you just go offline at some point because everywhere you turn, it's COVID this, COVID that. Wash your hands, don't social distancing. It's pretty much everywhere. From a communications angle, Paul and Mehar, how does your brand stand out amidst the clutter? Do you just take a different direction? Do you make it unique? And first to Mehar, please, how do they go about it? There is just too much everywhere, and it's basically on COVID-19.
So saying there's a lot of clutter right now in the market, and so how do we operate or communicate differently so that we cut through the clutter? I'll point towards our experience first of all as a consulting firm. So what we did is that we changed and we became more of advisory. So what we did in the first 3 months is that we came up with an advisory sort of like template. Some of you may have seen it in your inboxes, but we basically gave the market a couple of tips that they can continue doing with regards to sales and marketing during the 3 months that we had the lockdown. So what we're basically telling the market is that, you know what, while people are at home, there's not much activity moving, spend or use that time and come up with or do some activities with regards to sales and marketing. So for example, when was the last time that you updated your website? When was the last time that you maybe, let's say, updated your brochure for sales? When was the last time that maybe, let's say, you organized your files, you know, large photography files, large videography files? When was the last time your marketing team had a training, you know? So we're saying, don't stop everything. There's some things which can still continue even as people are at home and things are not happening. So that is the advice that we give to the market, we give to our customers and current and past customers. And so basically it was just advisory. So that was the first one. So the second one that we did was just basically checking in and saying, what help do you need? What can we do for you? We've got 1, 2, 3 solutions for you. What do you think about it? And it's interesting that the people that we contacted, actually, some of them said, oh, thank you very much. You've contacted us and, no one else has done this. Or, oh, yes, we've been struggling with ABCD. A majority said, no, thank you. Let's have a discussion in about 3, 4, 5 months. But basically, that interaction of just reaching out to the customer helped us just get in touch with a couple of people and just see how people are doing. But then again, also offer sort of like a hand, And at the same time, some people are saying, oh, we thought you've died like many other companies, but we're like, no, we are still here, and if you need help, we're here for you. So the second step for us was in reaching out. Now, for many companies, and it depends on which industry and sector that you're in, from service to product, some of you in essential services, some of you are not in essential services. I think the key idea is just basically to keep alive. And I'll say that in a certain way. Don't completely close your communication taps. Don't completely sort of like take a back seat and say, we're waiting for this thing to finish. It won't finish. I think the key idea is just basically to prepare, and actually preparation should be ending by in the couple of next, I think, 5 days. So by the time June finishes, you need to be having a plan for the second half of the year. You've got Q3 and you've got Q4. So the big question is, how do we still do business? And alluding to the previous point of, don't even look at a profit, just look at sustaining your costs and operations and, sort of like surviving within the next 6 months. And then based on that, you come down and now say, how do we now communicate? So the first point that you have to look at is, how do you operate within the next 6 months? What campaign can we do? How can we reach out to our clients? And it depends whether in service or product or whatever it is industry. But look at your operations first. And then secondly, look at how you're going to communicate. So don't communicate first without looking at your operations. Because we saw some companies which said, you can call us on this number, you can email us, as our customer care service numbers are still on. You call those numbers, they're off. Or you even do deliveries, and I saw this, especially with the people who went into delivery, and they hadn't prepared for it. You order for something and it takes them 2 hours, And so those are the things that people need to be prepared and be ready for, because the way we're going into the second half of the year means that while yes, we're in a depressed situation and everything, at least we need to maintain minimum operations, and we need at least to be there and available for the consumer. So to the marketers, to the brand managers out there, if you don't have your second half plan, please talk to your agency, talk to your communication partner, talk to your management team and say, what, we need to have a second year plan in terms of execution and operations. Once that is set, you now come to communication. That is the way I think. So basically, Sharon, I can see your back. So the first thing that we did was advisory. The second thing that we did was just basically checking in on our clients. And then the third thing, in the way different companies and different businesses and brands can communicate, is first of all, summarize or just get together their operational plan for the second half of the year, and then now come to the communication plan and see how best do they reach out to the people that they're going to reach out to in the second half of the year.
Thank you, Paul. Then to Mehar.
Could you repeat the question, Sharon?
So we're talking about communication in terms of the consumer. Is it going to change, or must it change? And then Paul throws in there, in terms of what I've heard from Paul, maybe what you can supplement on is the plans we had at the beginning of the year, or the plans that we sat down and made in July last year for this year can no longer apply because the consumer has changed. So from an agency angle or from a digital marketing angle, what should marketers do right now in terms of communications? What should their roadmap look like?
The first thing, Sharon, is stop selling. Stop selling your services. Stop selling what you can, what you want to do for them, and start understanding what problems are the consumers facing, what problems are your clients facing, what problems are your prospective clients facing right now, because that they are in the exact same position that we are as agencies, as marketing agencies, right? And this is what I realized. The couple of first pitches I did during the year didn't go quite as planned because I was in selling mode as opposed to solving their problems. And this is, I believe, key for all of us. The consumer now has got the power. They know that they want to work with brands and companies that are there to solve their problems, who have a human face to them, as opposed to somebody who's trying to sell them something in this very difficult time right now and very uncertain time. So any strategy right now for any company should revolve around, what can I do for you as a company? How can I help you solve and meet your business goals out there? How can I give you visibility above and beyond your competition so that you can meet your business goals this year and beyond for the next 12 years? It's like exactly what Paul also said. How do we make your life easier for you during this time? If you can do that, if you can allay the consumer's fears and address their concerns, that is the way to go forward in marketing and in advertising.
All right.
Maybe just to add on something.
Yes, Paul.
To what Rehaan has mentioned. So Rehaan has mentioned something and said, don't sell. What I'd basically like to twist that, because I know some people, and this is based on experience, people talking to me and everything. So the situation is that very many people in sales and marketing are being told to sell. Yeah. Now and people in the audience can tell me, whether this is true or not. Rogers, I'm sure, is being told sell. Alice is being told, so now what's up? So yeah, everybody wants the money. So I think while you will, so don't sell, but offer your customers or your clients solutions. Okay, so go to your customer and say, I understand things are bad and everything, but I've got solution 1, solution 2, solution 3, solution 4, solution 5 for you. All right. So just give them a range of what can happen, because then people don't be in a limbo. And even just you're alluding to what Steve Jobs says, the customer or the consumer doesn't know what they want, So try and give them solutions and say, this can work out, this can work out, this can work out. Obviously, reality check is that they won't make, or you won't make a sale now, but you will have offered and given your customer some solutions to think about. And maybe when you go back within another 3 or 6 months, depending on the product that you're selling, at least you'll have made a decision and you'll have helped them better. So while you stop selling, still offer your client or your customers solutions. Offer them a range of solutions and tell them this is what you need to basically keep going. Yeah, Rogers, sorry, I
just wanted to use Rehaan's point to try and address a question I see. Somebody has asked, how do we move forward as marketing, BTL marketing agencies? Now, what Rehaan says is exactly the point. You need to see what value you can offer your clients. I mean, you're the experts in consumer engagement, doing merchandising and the events and all these. So now most governments don't allow crowds to form and things like that. And that's where you have done your trade the last, I don't know how many years. So how can you use your skills in consumer engagement and merchandising and all these in another platform, let's say digital or through radio or through television or whatever? You are the experts. I've seen a couple of agencies around, they've hired digital marketers to train their team to think digital. Yeah. Now, if you combine that digital training together with the expertise you have in consumer engagement, in merchandising, in all these other aspects, doing events online and things like that, at the end of the day, the companies that hire you want value for their shareholders. So if you're going to deliver this value, it doesn't matter how you're going to deliver it, that's what they will look out for. So you need to rethink. And like Paul said, this thing is here might be here with us for a while, so we need to work with it.
I think I just wanted to add on to what Rogers is saying. And Paul, you're exactly right. As salespeople, we still have targets, right? We still have targets. We still have OP to deliver. We still have top line to deliver. But I think the company that will stand out and the company that will be there tomorrow and the salesperson who will stand out is that salesperson who is not only. So if today I just wanted to understand what are you going through, probably I can ask my finance person to come and give you advice on how to run your P&L, right? Or I can ask my compliance person value to that person's business. They'll remember you tomorrow for this act. And even in that period of trying to add value to their business, they will buy if the consumer needs it. So it's always back to the consumer. We may be going through a difficult period, but the consumer still needs to shower. The consumer still needs to drink. The consumer still needs to buy tea leaves, okay? So we just have to make sure that we are still customer and consumer obsessed, and the consumer is still able to get our product on time. As salespeople, this is actually the test of our mettle, if I may call it that. This is when we are most tested, and this is the time to plant a seed and make sure we're very relevant to our customers and our consumers at the end of the day. So it's a balance. It's a balance between the two.
All right, thank you everyone for your submissions. It's interesting how the sales teams now agree that selling it's not all the time. Sometimes we come and do the relationship before the sale comes in. Now, as we move forward, because of the time component, we're supposed to run for 1 hour. I'm going to give each of the panelists this final question, and let's, in your simple terms, because we have SMEs, we have brand managers, we have marketing managers, we have sales teams listening on what should they actually do going forward. Each of you have different experience, different skills, multiple sectors. What does marketing in the new normal look like? And what are the 2 things that each marketing person needs to do going forward? Because the time is now. We need to act now. We are not changing anything. It's here to stay. So necessity is the mother of innovation. What should marketers do? Paul, communications, Mehar, advertising, Rogers, in trade and merchandising and everything, Alice from sales, what should they do? And then we will move straight to the questions, and then we can call it a day. So Paul, in communications, 2 things that a marketer needs to do going forward.
Okay. All right. So the first thing, and this is based out of a research by PwC. So PwC had a research done, I think it was in between April and May of this year. And they asked CFOs they asked them a couple of questions. And one question asked was, how will you change with regards to how your business operates? And I think it was about 68% of CFOs said that they're going to change their products and services for the companies. Now, if you're in marketing right now, or if you're in communication, or even in sales, you need to know how differently would your product look, or how differently will your service look like in the second half of the year. And if your CFO thinks that the product or service is going to change, have you interacted with the customer? Which for me is now the second point. So the first point is, as your business or management is making changes and making decisions about your customer, are you in the boardroom working and sitting with them to ensure that the change is not so drastic that you leave the customer completely behind? So that's number one. Number two is on the issue of interacting with the customer. Whatever solution that people will have to come up with, have you discussed? Have you interacted? Have you done some research? Have you gained some insights? And those insights are what is going to feed with regards to your communication. Now, to answer your question, Sharon, the customer has to be at the center of it. Even before COVID, that was it. Post-COVID, it's going to be the same thing. But we have to ask ourselves more questions with regards to how best can we reach you? How best can we give you solutions? How best can we give our services to you? And then that will lead to the communication plan, which has to be more effective, more efficient, and then also try and plan both short-term and long-term, giving a couple of ranges and saying, this is option one, this is option two. So with regards to communication, for me, it all starts with the customer. What do you need? Are we doing it right? What do you need differently? From that, now you go on to the communication plan. But be there when any change is being made in your boardroom with regards to new products, new services, to ensure that the customer journey is correct, to ensure that communication to the clients or the customers is also top notch, and then also to ensure that you don't move so far away and even you stop some services and the customer doesn't even know, or you've not even communicated to them. We'll see a couple of price changes very soon. We'll see a couple of issues, especially with logistics, whereby maybe perhaps due to the challenges of getting raw materials is maybe going to lead to some challenges with regards to how FMCG products are produced, or even services are sort of like distributed. So some of those changes are going to affect the customer. So just make sure that whenever those changes are being done, you're aware and that you're also communicating those changes to the customer. Yeah. And I wish everyone all the best, man. It's tough times.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Paul. I'm going to move straight to Mehar. Advertising. Do we see, what should marketers do? Of course, the budgets were slashed. How do they move forward from the angle of media buying? What are the options available to them right now in case budgets have been cut? How do they maximize the resources that they have to get maximum output for their organizations?
The first point I would say here is that it's all about relationships with our clients, with our consumers, and that is key. Make with your clients, you keep your relationship, keep on giving your clients the solutions that they need, and keep on giving them several solutions so they have everything in place. And that can actually cut through. There's a lot of noise and fear around Corona. And the solutions that we are giving, the relationships that we are not only we are creating, but keeping in touch at all times, are actually the ones that will make us go ahead and win ongoingly at the long term, short term, and long term.
Thank you, Mehar. To Rogers. To Rogers, two things that the teams that are listening in that are in trade marketing, merchandising, what should they do going forward? What does their marketing look like? And what are the two things that they need to really focus on so as to drive the sales and the business?
Okay, in my view, customers are looking for value, and then they are looking to partner with citizen brands. One, value, and two, citizen brands. Value, I mean, customers, we all have, I mean, there are competitors, telecom, you have 3, 4 in Uganda that are offering everything. So the customer needs to make that decision on what extra value am I getting with this? If I buy this, if I spend this money I have to buy this, what else will I get out of this? You need to look at bundling of your products. You need to add on that extra value so that you stand out from the crowd. The customer will come to you for that, because they are having a hard time. Customers are having a hard time. Some have lost pay, others have reduced. So they need to make a decision on shopping where they're going to get value, additional value from each spend. Then number two, the COVID crisis has brought about a patriotism in most countries that we've not seen before. Patriotism ranging from human beings, political races, and also companies. So consumers, I believe, are now looking out for brands that I would call citizen brands, brands which are working for the well-being of humanity. For example, when we needed a sanitizer for Ministry of Health, did you provide that, or do you just spend the whole year taking our money? When I went to your outlet in your supermarket to buy something, did you offer me a mask? I was actually amazed. I went to a supermarket and I was given a mask. My shoe was washed under when I was going out so that I didn't carry germs from there to my home. That had never happened to me. So those are the citizen brands that live responsible lives as responsible neighbors. I think that's what consumers are going to be looking out for.
Thank you, Rogers. Alice, as you give us the two things that the sales teams need to do, I think you've already hinted on a couple of them, but kindly hint on the issue of partnerships. How are partnerships going to become very critical, especially for SMEs, for companies without resources, sufficient resources, so that they can be able to boost their business? How has COVID elevated the need and the importance of partnerships, as well as you give us your 2 points?
Okay, so interestingly enough, you've just touched on my first point. So we are, as salespeople, looking at getting, and I'm going to use the word intimate, but I don't mean it as we would know intimate, but we need to get intimate with our partner, with our customers. They're no longer customers, they're now partners. So the same way you put time into a marriage, the same way you put time into a friendship, the same way you put time, with a newfound lover, is the same way we need to put time with our partners. They're no longer customers, they're partners. We need to add value, and Rogers has touched on this. Add value. Every step, every call you make sure that it's a value-adding call. Let that conversation be around, what can I do for you different? What do you think we can do for your business? Not just my business with you, but generally for your business. How do I help you? I think the other thing as salespeople we need to do, we need to read more. We need to have more information. We need to understand business trends. We need to understand what marketers are talking about so that we translate that to our customers in a way it makes sense to them. The second thing for me is the purchase journey. So I think Catherine, I've seen a lady called Catherine has asked a very significant question. She asks, maybe digital, very important, but still, I have customers who are coming to the outlet. What do I do about those customers? Make their journey in those outlets painless, okay? So I walk into probably a supermarket. Let me understand what promotions are on the ground. Let me understand any pricing differences you've made. Let me understand any bonuses you're running quickly. So let me walk in and understand quickly, this is on offer, this is not on offer. If I buy this, I get free hand sanitizer. If I buy this, I'll get a leaflet on safety during this period. Let me understand the value that you're adding. Two, I don't have a lot of money, right? Probably I'm facing a pay cut, or I'm facing I'm not getting my bonus, right? So show me what you're doing different as a company to help me in this situation. Show me how you care about me as a customer. Show me how your company is different from company B or C. In terms of SMEs, I know this is the most difficult time for SMEs because rightfully so, these are the people who are immediately probably don't have the backup of a multinational seated somewhere else. SMEs have to come and add value. Come and let me know why your SME and why not another SME. What are you doing different compared to SME X or Y? Very interesting, and I know we're running out of time. I noticed yesterday that there was a human resource company, so a company that actually does human resourcing, that was giving out loans, right? And they wrote me an email. I thought the email was the usual, we have this, that position, blah, blah, blah. But this email was just about, because of these difficult times, we're actually giving out loans. So my first question was like, everyone else is giving out loans. What's so special about your loan? Their processing hours for the loan was shorter than most that I know. And two, in terms of what they were asking for as security was quite different, right? It was quite different from what everyone else was giving. And then three, in terms of, you know, the whole process of guarantors and whatnot, they'd eliminated all that. So this was a value adding service by a company that was thinking different. Think differently. If your product is not selling at this moment, is there something else you can sell, right? You see hotels, Serena, was it Serena? Was actually now giving people a place where they could come and work during the day because they realized accommodation is not doing as well as it should. So think differently. If your company can quickly switch on and do something that adds different value at this time, do it.
Thank you, Alice. So all I'm hearing is look at your core competencies, look at your core capabilities as a business, and diversify if you must, right? Diversification has literally every company in Uganda right now is putting masks up for sale. So I'm wondering, is okay, of course masks now are making money, but it's a thing of diversify based on what your capabilities are, the skill set that you have as a business. It's the way we've seen very many businesses actually. One of the events companies in Uganda that actually it does a lot of shows, a lot of events. They're into now production of uniforms. So if I'm to hear Alice very clearly, diversify if you must and if you're to remain in business. Otherwise, we are seeing lots of businesses close down, which is not intended. At this point, I'm going to invite Victor, the president of Top Marketers Club, to take us through the various questions. I can see Hilda needs an answer on the gaming industry. Lots of them, some of them are being answered by the panelists as when you've shared. So over to Victor.
Hi, everyone. Just as they will say in Uganda, Oloburunji. Hope I got it right.
Yeah.
So just a quick look at the chat section. We have a question from Triti for Mehar, and she says the focus on digital marketing is key. What about personalization of the digital customer experience? So that's for Mehar, and then I think I have one for Paul as well. I think this is because it relates to communications, and it's from Hilda. How can the gaming industry deal with the current times to ensure revenue generation, seeing as they've also been banned from advertising on traditional media, that's TV, radio, and print? This gaming industry, I'm assuming it's gambling. Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe we can take as we look for others. I'm seeing others have already been answered in the chat section, but we can take those two for now.
Rehaan?
Hilda, so the question was around digital, right?
Yeah.
This is the one around in-house organizations having in-house digital teams, correct?
Yes, and then also personalization.
Personalizing of the digital experience.
Yes.
I'll start with the in-house one. Yes, a lot of companies at the moment are moving into in-house creative teams, into in-house digital teams. One of the things that Corona has actually shown us is that you can basically do your work from anywhere, right? And the model of the large advertising agency is what's been under threat. I'm going to give you an example of PwC, Deloitte. All these companies have actually now got an in-house digital agency. They've got in-house creative agencies. And this is a trend that we will actually see moving forward, that a lot of companies will actually go ahead and have in-house creative teams and in-house digital teams. So that's a reality on the ground now. And what this has also shown us is that you don't really need a bigger office now. Teams can be managed effectively and remotely from wherever you are. So that's something that's actually happening right now. The other question that was, how do you personalize the digital customer experience? I believe this has again coming back to relationship marketing. The one-to-one, how do we have that one-to-one with our customer, whereby we can give them the added value of the personalization, that we are here for you as a brand, that how that we can manage for you, we can give you solutions that you need, and that can be done more effectively digitally, because in digital you can actually track the entire journey and you can track your results.
Okay, just to add on to that, on that last part of the question, yes, Hilda, it's true. Companies, the more mature companies now need to move to personification in digital marketing. But of course, the SMEs should start from where they are. There is the generalized segmentation according to demographics, and then you customize messages and they go hit those people. But the more mature companies now need to step forward and go into capturing a lot of data, understanding these demographics a lot deeper and a lot more personal than what they are. Fine, I could be a 20-year-old person, I live in this place, I do this and that, but I am not exactly the same as another 20-year-old that lives in this place. So you need to know something a little bit more about me. Then you customize messages that go to me and speak to me. That's where things like machine learning come in, where, it can understand me and code a message that comes to me. I see it on my phone screen and it's speaking to me as opposed to the other 20-year-old next to me. Of course, these are a lot more costly and they can only be afforded by the bigger companies, because when you speak things like a lot of data, machine learning, but still the SMEs and the smaller guys have a place to start. They can start with a generalized segmentation and giving out messages. It still works.
Paul?
All right. I think the question was on gaming industry, which, as you rightly alluded, betting. So, I answered on the group, but I'll just quickly also share what I'd said. So gaming in Uganda is not under stringent challenges. I do know there was a bill which was going to come in and put the same stringent challenges that they were that has been executed in Kenya, but I think they've been given some time to prepare for that. I think it's been deferred or something of the sort. But if you recall what I said earlier, the companies that have data, customer data, can use that data very well. Now, gaming industry, unless you're the traditional gaming industry of entering into an outlet and then you sort of like, right and stuff. The gaming industry, you should be having your customer data, at your fingertips, better than any other industry, by the way, that I know of. Because everyone, especially in Kenya, everyone has to bet using either an M-Pesa line or an Airtel money line. So just use the data that you have and use those numbers, use those emails if you have emails, and just basically sell to your customers. Or basically, because I know for gaming, it's place a bet and see whether you can win. So just use your current customer data and use it to your advantage. How you communicate, what you sell to them, etc, is going to be your choice. But however, try and do it ethically, because right now people are desperate. So you may find two situations whereby some people use whatever little is left and come to the gaming industry. So I think as an industry, you need to come up and give a position on gaming right now, because then from a reputation and brand point of view, you do not want to be seen like the person who wants to take the final shilling that someone has during this tough time. So again, there's a whole brand reputation issue within the gaming industry. And then also beyond sports, now this is on the flip side, try and diversify. I've seen people commenting about diversification. Try and diversify. And for example, can someone place a bet on the election in 2022 and say maybe candidate X is going to be the president of Kenya, or candidate Y will be the president of Kenya, or candidate A is going to be the governor of this county? It's just a fun way and interesting way of seeing how things are going to be. But then again, you're also thinking long term, and you're going out of, you're going to a different scope that, gaming before has only been on sports. How about other issues, So just try and see whether you can diversify the options on people betting or gaming, whatever it is, but do it in a very ethical way. Be very careful about potential backlash with regards to how you go about it. And then, as I said earlier, use the data that you have in terms of customer numbers, emails, etc., to communicate to them directly.
Thank you. We have a question from Kenjema saying, how do you rekindle communication and consumer relationships with clients, that's B2B, if you haven't engaged them for the last 3 months?
Victor.
I just want to know how.
Victor, I think I can take that one, because that happens a lot, right? You tend to focus on the customers who are active and buying, and you tend to lose focus on those customers who haven't been buying or might not meet the potential of what you think is potential. So one thing I've realized is we have to be vulnerable, transparent, and honest, right? So I've been ignoring you. That's the reality. And I want to get you back into my fold. What I will do is I'll come and be vulnerable and tell you, look, based on past relationships, I haven't been doing a good job. I've analyzed myself, and definitely I've not done a good job. This outward acceptance of your failure will always, just the same way like relationships. If I just come out right and say, I'm sorry, right? There's nothing to argue about. I've said I'm sorry, right? So if you go to a customer and show them, look, I've analyzed what I did in the past. I didn't give you the value that I should have given you. I think I've not been the best partner that I should have been as an organization. What can I do to move this forward? How do we build our relationship from scratch? And start from the first step of, I want to reintroduce myself and I want to know you better. Sell on another day, right? Start the relationship from scratch. Go back to these customers, add value to them. And I think, I'm not quite sure who brought up that point at the beginning. I think maybe it could have been Paul, but come to customers with value add as your first step into that door, and then walk away. Come sell another day. That's how you get them back and win them over, right? Now start show them how can you add value. How can I add value? Now that I have you back, how can I add value? And then personify. Make it very personal. It's a solution that works for you and not my ex-big customer. It's just tailor-made for you, and make sure that the customer is clear on what exactly you're tailor-making. Show your vulnerability. That's all I can say.
Okay, just to add to what Ali said, and it's interesting that she's alluded to dating. So, so you've ghosted this person for like 3 months. The best way to actually, no, not the best way. One of the ways to actually make a comeback is to actually call and say, you know what, can we meet up? Can we have a coffee? Can we do lunch? Can we have breakfast? I mean, food is a very easy way of saying, oh, okay, you know, obviously depends on how you left the relationship 3 months ago. So just alluding to what Ali said, now seriously, there are 2 things that you can do. So the first one, go back to what you did with that client. So you said you're into B2B. Was it a service that you offered? Was it a campaign that you did for them? I don't know, maybe you're in motoring. Was it maybe a part or a spare part you delivered? I don't know, whatever it is. Give them a call. And because I know now visits are restricted for some people, give them a call and say, hey, by the way, we did for you ABCD, I don't know, in March. How are you doing? Is a solution working for you? That's if you had sold. Would you need an upgrade? Can I do something different? So just, you know, call up the phone and say, you know, just check and say, how are you doing? How is the solution working for you? You know, just check up on them. Solution B can be depending on which industry that you're in. You can do a survey, or you can do a report, or you can do a white paper or an analysis or something, and then go to the customer and say, we've got this fantastic report. We'd like to take you through it. It's concerning your industry. It's going to help you in ABCD. And again, don't sell, but just give them solutions. So then you come back to them and they'll be like, oh, okay, these guys are coming back to me with what the moderators have said is solutions. You're adding value. You're giving them something different. So it won't be like, hey, this guy was lost, you know? You know, it's like those WhatsApp messages where someone texts you and you know someone is going to say, hey, can you send me something? Because you know that's the only thing that they're basically texting you for. So just go back and add value to them. Do a report, do a survey, invite them for, you know, an online engagement like this and say, we're releasing a report on ABCD. We'd like you guys to be a part of it. You know, here are the login details. Or can we have a call with you next week on Monday, next week on Tuesday? We'd like to take you through this report. It may have some insights for you. So that's the way you can do it. So just like in dating, holla, say, you know what, can we meet? And just say, how are you doing? How is the solution doing? Whatever it is that you give them. If you lost the business or you had engaged with them, again, say, you know what, I'm just checking on you. I know things are tough and everything, but just seeing if you're okay. So that's the first one. The second one is go back to them with a solution, a survey, a report, and see whether they're going to take it, and just have a conversation and see how the relationship goes on, moving on. I hope I've been of help there.
Before we even move on from that question, I think something that's also common is the reason why people stop handling an account is normally salesperson fatigue, right? So as a salesperson, I've been handling this account for some time, and due to fatigue, probably I've ignored them. That's the right time to bring in fresh eyes into that account. Okay, so it's a good time to bring in a new account manager who will actually go back to the customer and say, look, we want to start afresh, and I'm a fresh person, so that you don't have you know, old past issues necessarily coming up because of a salesperson fatigue, having handled one account for a long time. So freshen up the whole account. If it's you know, if it's an ad team, get a new account person, get new creatives on the account, get a new digital person. If it's a sales team, get a new relationship manager, get new sales execs who are handling something different, and switch them around and let them handle that account that probably was suffering from sales fatigue.
Thank you. I guess we've exhausted that, and I think it's really clear now you should never ghost a customer. And I'm speaking from a B2B background. Always be in touch with them. So I'm seeing a lot of activity in the chat section, as well as time. The one thing I'm sure of is these events can never end on time, because there's always something bugging marketers that they have to let out. But in the interest of time, we will have to stop there, and then I will hand back to Sharon to bring this to a close. But thank you.
All right, Victor. Thank you so much for taking us through that session. Uganda Marketers Society was very excited with a request from the Top Marketers Club of Kenya. We are glad to have taken part in this discussion, and greetings from all the members of Uganda Marketers Society, and we hope that we can do this again. To the panelists, Paul Mwirigi, Capital One Group, thank you so much for sharing insights on communication. Alice, Head of Sales, GSK Kenya, thank you so much. Mehar, advertising, I guess I just need to go, and I'm not going to ask for more budgets. Let me try and work within what I have. Rogers, Head of Trade Marketing at MTN, thank you so much for joining us on this panel. Once again, Victor, the President of Top Marketers Club Kenya, thank you so much for the invite. And I'm going to request at this point, because marketing events never end, we are moving this discussion to Twitter and Facebook under the hashtag marketing chats. If you take a look at the Top Marketers Club page, the hashtag is there. Thank you, Caroline. She's saying this was very helpful. I personally learned a lot from what has been shared. Let's move the chat to Twitter. Please post more of the questions, and the panelists are going to follow up from there. And the video of this session is also going to be posted later with a few edits. Thank you once again. We need to beat curfew in Uganda. So I guess everyone needs to get moving on the road, and please be safe, stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and we will see you when the borders open, I guess. Absolutely. Thank you so much, yes, and have a blessed evening.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.
Bye-bye.